Good day. I'm here to introduce to you Lesson 9. And in Lesson 9, we're going to go through importing data, sorting data, filtering data, outlining and subtotaling that data, and then setting up a table with our data in our worksheet. So the part for today is how to import data. And the important thing to remember when you are importing data is that you are ensuring whatever you're trying to import is not open and running in the background, because it will cause your document not to be able to be imported. And sometimes, in my opinion, the input message that occurs or the message that occurs when you are trying to import is not so clear that the problem is that the document is open. So just remember to have that file closed before you get started. So most of our time will be spent on the data tab in this lesson. And we're going to start on the left-hand side today, which is get external data. And there are multiple ways that we can import depending on the file type. So you can import an Access file if you wanted to, and then you can import an XLS if you wanted to, which is an older version of something that is operated by Microsoft, or an XML-based, which application has been shared publicly kind of thing. So here's what to remember when we're talking about all these different types of extensions that you can import into Excel. There are essentially two ways Excel breaks this down when they're talking about importing data. They are talking about data that is not native, and then there is data that is native to Excel, if you will. So essentially what happens, Excel says, okay, is it a document that I understand because it's Excel, Microsoft based, or is it a document that I don't understand? I can figure it out. I'm going to need your help, essentially, and that's where the wizard comes in, and we call those non-native files. So it's kind of good to understand the file that you're trying to import before you start importing it, because it will help you understand when you're going through the wizards what you should be doing. So like if I click on this CSV file, which essentially is an Excel file, and I look at it quickly, I can see that this thing is organized in columns. Okay, so very similar to something we would see in Excel. If I come down here to this XML file, this is not. And you can see that this has got lots of symbols going down throughout the document, okay, that are not organized in a column fashion, okay? And then you have your ACCDB, which is an Access file. And we can't get a preview on that in Google, but essentially, just so you know, when you're importing from a database, it's usually set up in a table, which is columns and rows essentially in another Microsoft program. So the hardest one is going to be these XML files or your text files that you import, because they are not set up in the same manner that, say, an Excel file is. So we're going to start with a non-native file. So we're going to start with a blank Excel document. And it says that we are going to go to the data tab and get external data. So get external data just means import, doesn't mean export. Export is under file and export. And export, remember, we learned before, is when you are taking a document and you are converting it from an Excel document to something else, like a PDF, or you could come over here and make it an older version. If you wanted to, you could do a text, or you could do a CSV, you could do a macro. You could click Save As, and you could pick from all this long list here. as well. So that is export, which is under file, which you could also get to by save as. We're trying to import. We're trying to get data from somewhere else, get external data. Hopefully that will help you. All right, so we are going to import it's called 09 NA POP EST01 CSV. So if you were taking the certification test, you might say to yourself, what in the world is CSV? I've got from access, from web, I've got from text, I've got from other source, and I see SQL, analysis, data feed, XML, data connect wizard in the query. So queries have to do with access, essentially. So we could try, I don't see anything with CSV, so I could try XML here. And then, of course, you know where your files are on the test. I have to go to a slightly different place. But if you click on it and you don't see the file there, when you finally get to the location of the file, if it's not there, okay, then you probably pick the wrong dropdown, okay? So you really only have two choices, if you will, XML when it's these odd-based things for now, and text. And if it's not in one of those two places, you're probably onto the harder stuff. But for now, it's usually access, it is a text file, or it's an XML file extension when you're looking for your files. And there's our 09 NA POP EST. So I'm gonna click on it, and down here in my import text file dialog box, I click import. All right, so here is my wizard. So you have to just kind of walk yourself through. If you're taking the certification exam, it wouldn't be too bad, except for you just have to kind of figure out where in the directions where part goes with each wizard, because I like to, of course, put them out of order. So it says in step 1 of the text import wizard, notice the preview at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so they're talking about down here. This is kind of sort of how it will look like when you import it. It's not always 100% accurate, but it kind of gives you an idea of how your document is set up as well. I didn't pull this one up to show you before we got started, but it's there now. And it says, this is Excel's best guess for the moment as to how the data should be formatted. There are population figures rendered and quotation marks with commas between each figure. Each comma acts as what we call a delimiter. It's difficult to judge whether each figure between the commas will be the same length. Under choose the file type, we are going to pick delimiter, and then we have to pick that it has headers. So what they're saying here is we see down here in the little preview table with row headers in column A. So now we know we have row headers because it says it right there. So this must be some kind of like write-up of the document. And then we see year and month, resident population. So those must be my headers. So that's why we're turning this on. And you'll know to turn that on the certification exam. In real life, though, you might have to go pull this up, this document up, to see if it has headers or not. Now I can look to see, here's the file originally, and hopefully in Google it will still look good. So here it is. So this is that first row of information, and then row 3 is my column headers. That's essentially what it's saying. And I may have already shown you this. Give me grace. Okay, so now your question is, you got a couple questions actually. Okay, depending on which way you want to work, top to bottom or bottom up. What row does my data start in? Well, we can see right here, this says table with row headers. This seems to be some kind of write-up. Table 1 monthly population. So I might not need to start importing at row 1. If I do, it is not the biggest deal in the world. I can just delete later on. So it looks to me row 3. And if I come back here to this preview, here's the row headers. Row 3 is where I need to start importing. So I'm going to change this to 3. And then you have the question of, are my characters delimited, which means there's a comma or a tab or some other kind of symbol that separates my data, or are they in nice fixed columns? Well, in the preview, they look like they are nice, beautiful columns, right? But when Excel tried to import this non-native document, it did not import in nice columns. Look at down here. It is all separated with all these commas. So we have to pick delimited. Press next. Now this screen says on step 2 of the wizard, uncheck tab, because they're not set up in tabs. The preview does not include long spaces between the figures. There are no long spaces down here. We want to check comma. We can clearly see all the commas down there. And now look what happens. Okay, it starts to nicely organize it back to that preview that we saw in my Google information. And you can always press back if you need to, and it will take you back to the previous screen if you've gone and made a mistake. So you could do tab with your delimiter, semicolon, comma, space, or you can do another one as well. All right, so we press next. And here's this screen. I generally would never do anything here, but if you wanted to, you could scroll down and I could pick this first column and I could pick date if I wanted to for this first column. I could come over here. Now these aren't text, but pretend they were. And I could click on these and I could pick this one and I could pick text. I just say, wait, do it when you're done. Go to the home tab and format your columns under the numbers group like you normally would. But there is an option here if you wanted to. We're not going to right now. We're going to go ahead and we are going to press finish. And we get one more little dialog box. And we can't do anything up here because it's a non-native file, so it won't let us. And it's just going to import as a worksheet. And this is the important question. Do I want it on this worksheet or a new worksheet? Okay. And we don't have to worry about the data model right now. And so the directions will either tell you to put it in the next available row if you were what's called appending a document, or it's going to tell you to put it in the upper left-hand corner. So the upper left-hand corner is A1, and that's what we're going to do in this case. So we're going to press OK, and then it imports. And here's the thing about importing. It is never, ever, ever going to be perfect, okay? Sometimes you have to still go in, even after you've done all this, and make it look better. So that's what we're going to do now. So it says change the column width of A to 16. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to right click. We also go through the home tab, or I could click and drag if I wanted to as well. So that makes it start to look a little bit better. Now it says the worksheet that Excel has generated, seen here on the screen, shows the United States population estimate for each month of April 2010 to December 2012. Excel could not make sense of the data in the column A, so it left the data type set to general for most of the cells. However, it did make an error in attempting to convert the year in A25. So if I come down here to A25, okay, it doesn't go to 2012, it goes to 20121. To correct it, begin with selecting rows 2, 12, and 15. So I'm going to come up here. These are non-adjacent rows that I'm selecting, so I'm using Control. So I'm selecting 2, 12, and 25. And then it says we are going to delete them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to press delete, and they go away. And now they want us to go to A2, and we are going to type in April. You might say, why would you get rid of the year? You'll see. April 2010. I'm going to press enter, and then I'm going to come back over here to A2, and I'm going to grab my fill handle, and I'm going to go down to A34. And now if you look, and if you got to look up here at the formula bar, it goes to December 12, which is December 2012. And then it's got April 10th, and I've got April 2011. So it filled it in, and we didn't need those 3 row columns with the year. So we just got rid of them, because if we typed this in correctly, it would fill in as we filled it down. Now it tells us to delete rows 35 to 40. I guess we don't need any of this data down here. So this time I'm going to go to the home tab in the cells group, and I'm going to drop down delete, and I'm going to do delete sheet rows. All right, I'm going to save this real quick. And then I'm going to press save. And then I will leave this here just in case I need it later on. But this surely beats. Yeah, we still had to fix it up a little bit. We could do more to this. We could change the width of these columns. We could wrap row 1 if we wanted to. We could put this in a table, but it surely beats going in and typing in all this data with all these numbers with the import option. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get external data. Okay, meaning we're going to import something that's a little more friendly to Excel. So, still on the data tab, this time we're going to do a database, and we're going to do an access file, which means access is Microsoft's database program. So we are going to be importing another Microsoft program. I'm going to open up a new workbook by pressing Control-N. I could also go to File, and I could go to New, and I could do blank workbook if I wanted to. And we are going to go to the Data tab, to the Get External Data, and this time we're doing from Access. And I'm going to go find my file. And the file that we are looking for is the 09 Customers Contacts ACCDB. ACCDB is the Access extension. And that's how I know to go to Access. And there is the customer contacts. So I click on that file, and this time I'm clicking Open. So in a database, you tend to have these things called tables. They are essentially just worksheet tabs, but they're called tables in Access. And your rows are called records, and your columns are called fields in Access because it's a record of information. Like, say you go to the doctor's, you are a patient record for them. And so they have a record file on you. So that row represents a record, just like you are at a doctor's office. And then the column is called a field, which is just, say name, date of birth, address, contact information, such as that. So it just changes because you're in a different Microsoft program. Okay. So on this screen, we can pick what one of the tables we want to import, essentially what worksheet are we importing, or we can do multiple select by enabling the multiple select option and pick all of these or 2 of these if we wanted to. They want us to just pick customers, so that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to press OK. It says in the import data dialog box, this time you'll notice that up here we can actually enable these options because it's a Microsoft program. It understands it, so it is active. So we are going to choose table. We don't want a pivot table or pivot chart, and we don't have to worry about doing the connection right now. And then it's asking us where we want to import it to, in what cell. And like I said, it's either below existing data, we don't have any existing data, or it is in the next upper left-hand corner, which is applied A1, where you can do existing worksheet or you can do new worksheet as well. So we're going to do existing worksheet, and we're going to press OK. And notice this one comes in as a table because that's the radio button we picked. I can see that it's a table up here because it says Table Tools Design. And it comes with my little filter options down here. And then I can, if I click out, my Table Tools goes away. And this one imported much more quickly and much nicer, in my opinion, than the last one because it was an Excel file that it understood. So I'm going to save this one quickly. And again, not all of these are always perfect, so you still might have to do a little bit of work, changing things up or column width, but it, again, is a lot better than having to retype all this stuff. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is what's called append data to a worksheet. So it's still importing. Appending data is still importing. You're just, instead of doing a new workbook or worksheet like we did, we're going to import it to something that already has, import into a worksheet that already has data in it. That's why it's called append, A-P-P-E-N-D. All right, so we want the 09 owners file. Okay, so I'm going to go pull that off of Classroom. Download it. And here we can see this file that has 20 rows of information already. So I'm in cell A1, so I can show you for a reason. And they want us to go to the data tab. And this time we are going to be importing an XML file. So that's not text, that's from other sources. Don't forget there's some down here under from other sources. And here's XML. So I'm going to go find my files. And here's that 09 owners import that they want us to import. So I click open. And it says a dialog box named error in XML might appear at this point. If so, click OK to dismiss the dialog box and proceed. It says there is a problem with the XML or schema source. Click click OK to have Excel create a schema based on the XML data source. So we are going to do so by pressing OK. And so here is your backup plan, okay? So it says in the importing data dialog box, click the existing worksheet because we're going to add it to this, okay? And we could have done an XML table if we wanted to. We're not ready for that. That's part of the expert stuff. So we're going to click the existing worksheet. Now, right now, by default, it's going in A1 because that's where I was clicked. But if I do that and I leave it that way, it's going to override what I already have. So all this A1 through G20 would go away. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to back that out, and I'm going to click in A21. Now, I could have been an A21 from the get-go before I started the importing process, and I could have saved myself that step. But there is a nice little safety net, if you will, so you can double check yourself to make sure you're putting it in the right location. So I'm going to press OK, and then it imports. But here's the thing. It doesn't import perfectly, okay? So it's up to us to fix this and make it look good. And that's what I'm going to do at the end of this lesson. I'm going to move things around. So it says to correct the problems, we're going to move some ranges. So we're going to move E23 to E75. Okay. And move is cut. So I'm going to press Control X. And they want us to move it to B23. So I'm going to put, you could select B23 all the way down here to B75 if you wanted to and press paste, but I'll show you don't have to. All right, so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take H23 to H75, and I'm going to cut it. And then they want us to move it to A23. But this time I'm just going to click in A23, not down to 75. I'm going to press Control V for paste, and it automatically goes all the way down because it just takes the same number from over here down here. So it has to fill down to 75. So you can save yourself a little bit of time by doing that way. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing with J. So I'm going to select J23 to 75. I'm going to press Control X for cut. And they want us to move this one to E. So I'm going to click in E23 and press Control V and paste. And we're going to do the same thing with K for the zip code. Control X. And I am going to put that one in F. And then one more time, I'm going to do I. And I'm going to Control X. And I'm going to put that one in G. So essentially what I'm doing is trying to make the city match to the city, the state match to the state, zip and phone, because it wasn't set up the same in the other document, which is fine. But again, surely better than retyping all of this. So now it tells us to delete columns H through L. So I'm just selecting the columns because they're adjacent. I'm going to right click and I'm going to press delete. I could also go to the home tab Now it tells us delete rows 21 through 22. I'm going to right click and I'm going to press delete. And then you'll notice our alignment is a little off here. So I'm going to select all of column G, go to the Home tab, and it looks like it's right aligned, okay, or aligned right. I'm going to click it once and click it again, and now they all align together the same. Okay, so the next thing they want us to do is review finding. So I'm going to click up here in my data. I'm going to scroll down and make sure it looks good all the way over. And I am going to, we're going to replace. So I am going to press Control H to replace, but I could also, if you remember, go to the Home tab in the editing group, and I can go to Find and Select, and then click on Replace. Remember, Control F is Find and Control G is Go To. But Control H goes to Replace, which is the Find and Replace dialog box. And we are going to find Dell City. We're going to replace it with Dell City, but Dell only has one L. So remember, we have options. We can look within the sheet or the entire workbook. We only have one worksheet here. I can look by rows or by columns, which really doesn't matter unless you're only trying to replace something in one column, which technically we could do, which is column D. But I would have had to be in D to start with to make that work a little better. I can match case, and I can match and tell your cell contents if I want to as well. And of course, over here, I can search formatting if I wanted to as well. We've already done all of that. I like to hit Find All to make sure that it has found all the right occurrences of DELL city with a space and is not replacing anything it shouldn't. And it tells me I have 11 down here. And so do my step-by-step. So I'm going to press Replace All. It replaces it. And then I am all set. All right. I hope that gives you a little more insight into importing data into Excel. Thank you very much.